Columbia, you're now qualified, okay? But we're going to call a few different people up here. I'm going to ask you to kind of hold it to 3 or 4 or 5 minutes because we're going to get out of here fairly early. But our first Citruholic is one of our newest members in the Citruholic Club, and he is a dentist from Sumter, South Carolina. Dr. Hunter Lee is going to tell you how he became infected with a citrus bug. Hunter Lee. Tell them how you got infected with
infected. Yeah, not greening infected, but yes, infected nonetheless. I started probably in dental school. I had a friend who, really I've always been into growing stuff, probably all of you are too, not just citrus, but I started with tomatoes. My dad and I grew tomatoes growing up, and I don't know, it just, growing things just spoke to me, and so I got into dental school, and that's the whole career thing that just makes this growing stuff possible. But got into dental school, and a guy had an orange tree, that's all I heard him say at the time, and we had a cold winter, and I remember him saying it died, and I went back to his house that next spring, and he's like, yeah, my lemon came back, or my orange tree came back, and it just piqued my interest. Like, what do you mean it came back? And so, of course, I got into it, and the rootstocks and varieties, and then it all started pouring in, and it took over. But I had my first Meyer lemon tree around that time. I lived on Folly Beach, just had it in a container, and then I got, not long after that, a Kaffir lime. And then I joined the Air Force, and so I had to leave for a good 3 years, and basically my mother-in-law kept them in a little greenhouse. And when I got back, after about 2 years since I had seen these trees, they had both lived and both had fruit on them, and we were all just eating the fruit and talking about how easy that was, and it started there. And since then I probably have, I don't count anymore, over 100 potted varieties, probably 10 or 15 varieties in the ground, but that's interspersed in between plums and blueberries and blackberries and all that. But I think now my purpose is just seeing what's possible in my city without much protection, because let's be real, nobody is as crazy as we are, and no one's going to go out there and protect them like we do. So I want to be able to offer something to family and friends that says, stick this in the ground, don't worry about it, and eventually enjoy the fruit. And so we're getting there slowly, but yeah, I'm addicted. I'll be searching my whole life. Yeah, we'll see if we can find it.
My name's Hunter Lee, and I'm addicted. That's right. Ben, if you say a few words. Ben, yeah. This is Ben Sally. We've been friends for a long time. The Century Citrus Nursery.
Well, I would just say check your trees monthly. I did not check some of my trees this year, and I've had them in the ground for years, never covered them. They lost their leaves on the worst winters. But you definitely need to check your trees monthly and make sure you don't have any bug issues going on. I had some scale issues, but mostly I had sooty mold, which is an infestation of whiteflies. And I didn't take care of that problem, and then we had all the cold weather, so that really hurt the tree, and just the straw that broke the camel's back. So I would just say, if you want to grow something, I think you can grow it if you're in Zone 8A, but you're going to have to protect it. You know, just be, adamant about it. You can do it, but just protect them. Yeah.
It's how bad you want it. It's what I say.
That's right.
Yeah. And I've got some good news for all you folks in here too. I save money. No, that's not it. My car insurance, but no, we have been classified as a Zone 8B from Columbia. What used to be 8A, the USDA has reclassified us, and we are now 8B. So go ahead and plant those citrus trees and don't worry about it. All right, Citruholics Club. Aaron, would you like to say a word or two? You're a fairly new Citruholic.
Sure.
This is Aaron Thatcher. He's got the bug pretty bad too.
Oh gosh, yeah. I would probably say when I first caught the Citruholic bug was the Myrtle Beach Citrus Expo. I think it was 2012.
Way back there.
And I didn't even know, I've been living in Myrtle Beach for a few years. I didn't even know that you could grow citrus in this area. And we toured a property and I was just, my eyes were wide open. I brought home a bunch of citrus, little seedlings. I've been talking about it and I've just been hooked ever since. I took some of the seedlings that I had from that expo and I grew them in East Tennessee, which was zone 7. And mainly hybrids. That's really a lot of what I focus on is the trifoliate hybrids. The stuff that you can put in the ground and not have to worry about, but also the stuff that nobody really likes eating also at the same time. But I currently now, just in this past year, we bought land in Whiteville, North Carolina, and we have 88 citrus trees that we've gotten from, I know Herschel said you want to focus on one, but between Herschel and Stan, these are my 2 guys, and this is where I get all my stuff from. I don't focus on the Home Depot or the Lowe's citrus, because you don't really know what you're going to get. But yeah, we've got close to 100 trees there. It's our first year doing that. It's called Tough Citrus. And we've got a website, toughcitrus.com. We've got a YouTube channel, Tough Citrus. And we focus on a lot of the stuff, not as much of the sweet stuff, like the good tasting stuff, but the rare stuff, the hybrids. And we've got about 35 trees in North Florida, which is also Zone 8, about an hour outside of Gainesville. And I'm in the belly of the beast down there. Everything, you've got every disease known to man down there in Florida. And if you live in Florida, what can you grow that you don't have to worry about? So that's some of the stuff that I'm focusing on, stuff that you can grow in North Florida, also in North Carolina and everywhere in between. That's easy, cold hardy, and doesn't really, you don't need to put a lot of stuff and a lot of attention into it. But I still cover all my trees. I still water them by hand up in North Carolina and stuff. So as much as I want to keep my hands off, I'm addicted. I'm up staying up late thinking about citrus and looking at Herschel's website at whatever new stuff he's got on there, or calling Stan up asking him what he's got, but yeah, I wouldn't say, I've been into it for 10 years, but I really haven't started putting citrus in the ground on a large scale up until just the past few years. So I'm still kind of new, but my name's Aaron and I'm a Citruholic.
I've always maintained that growing citrus is good for your health. I mean, just look at me. I'm fixing to turn 76 years old and I can still cut collards all day long and pick citrus. So it's good for your health. But somebody that even knocks the shine off of me is Bob McCartney, who is a ripe young 87 years old and still kicking high, and one of the original Citruholics. Bob, come on up, tell them a few words about how you got into it.
Woodland was first in the nation.
Thank you, Stan. I don't know whether everybody can hear me or not. I couldn't hardly make sense out of what the good speakers were telling us because of the acoustics in here, but are y'all having trouble understanding, or was it just me?
Some of it.
Some of it? I guess what, I wasn't expecting to be up here, and I guess what Stan was just saying was that he wanted me to tell you how I got into this a little bit. And I got to think way back. I know that I had friends in Florida that were in citrus, and I was down there in the time when the freeze of 1989 or 1990, and went to the citrus arboretum at Lake Alfred. And a lot of the trees in the citrus arboretum had been killed or badly damaged by the freeze. And so I just started collecting from the ones that looked like they were going to survive and grow back. And of course, at Woodlanders, we had started in 1980 as a native plant nursery and growing rare plants from all over the world, really, and shipping all over the world. And so we started doing citrus, and I got them from a number of different places in the Southeast, and when I had been in Virginia, I'd gotten familiar with Riverside in California because I grew every daggone fig I could find, fig variety I could find in the southern United States, and then every variety I could get out of Riverside, California. And of course, that's a big citrus collection at Riverside also. So that's kind of how we got started with citrus, and we've just been growing them in the open ground, don't have them in greenhouses except the baby ones. We have protection for them in the wintertime from greenhouses, but the ones in the ground don't get any protection, and we've had them, a lot of the ones that, as the book claimed about the rusk citrange, that it approached edibility. I don't know how close, but we grew a lot of the Ponsaris hybrids and a lot of the more cold hardy species like Ichangensis, which is useless as far as I can see, except as a hybrid parent. So anyway, that's what we've done, and I've seen this organization grow from, what was the first time we met?
2004, somebody know? It was right here, it was 19 years ago, however long that's been.
Yeah.
This marks number 19 at the Citrus Expo. Bob hosted one year down in Aiken and forgot to bring the entry forms or something. But we made it through.
We made it through, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just enjoyed every expo I've been to, and I think I've been to almost all of them, so.
He brought some Ponsaris wine one year to North Carolina. What was that stuff, the alcohol stuff you had made out of Ponsaris? You had it at the North Carolina Expo, you was passing it around. Huh? Yeah. There was something you made, some kind of brew you made with Ponsaris or something, but
I
anyway.
don't remember
You don't remember that?
attempting anything with Ponsaris except as a hybrid.
Yeah, well, no, it was some kind of beverage you had, and y'all had it at the Citruholics banquet that night. But anyway.
Thanks, Dan.
A true Citruholic, there you go. When you start making wine out of Ponsaris, you're a true Citruholic. Raymond, I think you want to say a word or two. Raymond Babb owned about 90-acre citrus grove in Central Florida until a certain company decided they wanted to move into his part of the world. And I asked him one time, he lives in Sherrall, South Carolina now. He's got a state-of-the-art greenhouse that opens hydraulically and let it rain in there, and then he can close it back. Beautiful. He grows some beautiful citrus. In fact, I help him sell some of his citrus sometime at my farm stand. But I asked him, I said, why would you leave Central Florida and move to Sherrall to grow citrus? He said, a rat ran me out of town. Y'all can guess who the rat was, right? Mickey Mouse. Yeah. Said he couldn't get out of his own driveway. So Raymond, say a word or two.
Well, the only thing I really wanted to say was to commend whoever organized the tours yesterday. They were fantastic, all three of them. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. It was. Everything was beautiful. Probably one of the better expos we've had as far as tours and weather and everything working together. Charles Fox, you want to say a word about being a Citruholic? Right where you are, just stand up.
Okay. Well, I'm Charles Fox. I live in Old Fort, North Carolina, just east of Asheville, in the mountains. And I've been growing cold hardy citrus since 2012. I got my first cold hardy orange experience when I went to the Biltmore Estate and saw a big Ponsaris tree. I'm originally from Bradenton, Florida, so I know an orange tree when I see it. And so I saw what looked like an orange tree over there in the Biltmore Gardens. I was like, my God, that's an orange tree. And I looked at the little placard and it said that it was a Chinese hardy orange. So of course I had to look that up on the internet. And then I was wondering if they made hybrids of that. And then through my search on the internet, I found Stan McKenzie's website. And the rest is history. But yeah, my first good citrus was a Kimbrough that I got from Stan, and I planted it in the spring of 12. And I knew I'd have to protect it, even though it's supposed to be cold hardy or 12 degrees. I get down to 0 where I'm at on top of the mountain. So I built a frame around it, and it's still there. And it's pretty big. I've had to build the frame up bigger, and I've had probably 15 citrus trees growing outside in the ground over the past 11 years. And different varieties, the Ponsaris hybrids, I've got 3 satsumas in the ground now, Owari, Kimbrough, St. Anne. I've got a Maiwa kumquat and a Croxton that I got from Ben Sally, and they've been in the ground for 10 years. But pretty much everything I have to cover with a cold frame, like a mini greenhouse over each tree. The cold frames have to be built pretty sturdy out of 4x4s, because I get 60-mile-an-hour winds on top of the mountain in the winter, and they'll blow away if they weren't sturdy. And inside each frame I have a small space heater, and each tree has 1 or more 30-gallon barrels of water next to them. And my trees have survived a whole month of January where we didn't get above freezing even for the highs. They've survived 0 degrees with polar vortexes 2 years in a row. This past Christmas Eve we got down to 2 degrees and the power went out for 2 hours and we couldn't get the generator started, and so I lost some stuff. But my Owari survived. It only dropped about half of its leaves. The Croxton survived, Maiwa survived, Kimbrough did the best. My Shangshaw survived, and a Citradia survived with just a water barrel next to it and plastic thrown over it. So it's been an adventure.
Yeah. Like I tell people, it's not bad you want it, right? I mean, you're going out there, I tell people all the time, when they come around there, I say, now you got 2 things to worry about with the citrus tree you just bought. I said, well, what is it? I say, December, January, and February. You get past that, you got it made. Marge, would you like to say a word? Marge hosted one of our citrus expos in Savannah.
Yes, I will.
And she's a true Citruholic.
Donna and I moved here to Savannah, actually, from Minnesota in 2003. We had been snowbirds on Tybee Island, Georgia for 6 years before that. So I had started to learn a tiny bit about citrus. You're from Minnesota, you don't know anything. So I was really starting at 0. And when we first moved, about a month after that, found an ad in the local penny saver paper. A woman named Charlotte was selling off her husband's Meyer lemon trees. He had a whole yard full of pots he had passed on, but his trees were all still in the yard, and she was aiming to find people to take them. So we took one, and then I started getting online and learning this and that. And Walmart was right there, had big, beautiful trees. So a few came from Walmart initially. And then being online, I learned about the Citrus Expo. So by this time it's 2004, and we came up here, Don and I did, for that. That was our first expo, and I think we've been to about 17 of them. Haven't missed too much over the years. But I would say Citruholics are a really hardy bunch. We do persist with all the things that get thrown at us. And I will say this past year has been the most discouraging for us. Over the years, we just have an urban spot in Savannah. We have about 30 trees, or had about 30, give or take. And we're selling fruit to neighbors and doing lots of stuff like that, because when you get that many and start getting productive, you do have to start selling, because there's nothing else to be done with them, and you got to pay for the fertilizer somehow. So that's been going on, but this past year, of course, with the freeze, and we had a number of trees that weren't in the best of health, and did discover through testing last January that we have greening. Now, we don't know how widely it's spread. It's really hard to tell. The symptoms that are talked about, that we've been talking about for 20 years, that's not the symptoms we had. So it's really hard to know. And of course, who wants it? You know, I'm thinking, no, it's not greening. It's not greening. No, it's not. But eventually it came to having to test, and those 3 trees tested positive. They were all older trees, so not young ones. So we have taken out 7 trees from greening, lost 4 to the freeze, and we're not done with taking out trees from greening, but it's a heartbreak to take them out. When you have a very productive tree that in the past couple of years, then the fruit gets smaller and smaller, the leaves look terrible, the whole tree looks terrible. That's about the best way to describe the symptoms. It has to come out, and it's just very sad.
Tom Clinton, would you like to say a few words about the Citruholic disease? Come on down. Tom.
What am I supposed to say?
Citruholic. How you became a Citruholic?
Hello, my name is Tom McClinton, and I'm a Citruholic. Thank you. I was born in Tampa, Florida. My great-grandparents owned an orange grove. I was born next to an orange grove. So some of my earliest memories are riding our horses through the oranges and dodging rattlesnakes and big rats, okay? So I chose to love one of those three, and I unfortunately chose citrus, not the rats or the rattlesnakes. So when we moved to Georgia when I was 10, I went through a period of withdrawal that's lasted almost 50 years now, and still recovering from it. But one of the things I wanted to do, I just thought, if I could grow any kind of citrus, anything, I would be happy. So not long after I got out of college, came across, I think it was an article in Southern Living that mentioned a nursery in Aiken, South Carolina called Woodlanders. Bob's right over there. Bob McCartney's the owner of Woodlanders. So I got their catalog, and sure enough, in the catalog there was some citrus that I didn't really understand. I just knew they were citrus. And so I ordered the hardiest thing I could get, thinking if I could just grow anything, because I was living at that time about 40 miles south of Athens, Georgia. Not the citrus belt, although we've just been upgraded to Zone 8B, so that's good. And so anyway, I ordered my little citrus. It was actually a Troyer citrange and some other things. And I thought, now I'll be happy, because I've got my citrus that I can grow. And it did great. It was very successful. Still have my Rusk citrange and some other things I got way back when. But I wasn't happy, right? I had to, well, what else can I grow? What else can I grow? What else can I grow? And it went from there. And so as the internet opened up, it was like giving if we can extend the alcoholic metaphor a little bit further, it was like giving the keys to a distillery to an alcoholic, the alcoholic being me. And I started finding more and more things, but one of the things I was frustrated with was the fact I couldn't find good information on the internet or any other source. You went and bought a book, they were always about California or Florida, right? And very little about where I live. There were no citrus books written about Middle Georgia, surprisingly. So I decided to write my own. So I did my research, some of it firsthand, some of it secondhand, some of it just contacting people like the late Dr. John Brown in Texas, who had been a pioneer in hybridization of citrus. If you're familiar with what he did, I don't think he ever really recognized what the magnitude of what he had done. Many of the things that he developed are on the tables back there. Clemuse 2.2, one they called MIC, not K-A-Y, but I don't know what I guess I can use the term MIC because I am one myself, but they call it MIC or whatever. It's a very complex hybrid. He developed all those things, and so I was able to get some things from him. And then, of course, as time has gone by, other nurseries like Madison Nursery have opened up. That it's been, I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's crazy what's available now that you couldn't have gotten 20 years ago or certainly 30 years ago. And so I guess you could say my journey started with what's the hardiest thing I could grow? What can I grow? Then I moved towards, well, what's the best thing I can grow, right? And then last winter taught me, okay, let's go back to what's the hardiest thing I can grow. and I'm probably going to land somewhere in the middle. For a long time, I lived on the Georgia coast, which was like putting me in a candy store. I grew all kinds of citrus. We lived there for almost 15 years. I loved every minute. However, family called us back to Middle Georgia, and we lived back in Greene County, which is, again, south of Athens. Luckily, we keep getting warmer, at least according to the zone map, and I'm looking forward to that. And, but I still have about, I don't know, I was counting it up the other day, I think 40 or 50 different kinds that I'm growing, some more successfully than others. There were some casualties last year and some great success stories. So it's all a big adventure, and I've loved every minute of it. Can't wait to see the next chapter. Thank you. By the way, 4-H, I did my thing in extemporaneous speaking, so.
I have people ask me all the time, and I'm sure some of you have heard how I became a Citruholic. But when I was a boy, I've always enjoyed eating citrus. And across the road from my grandmother's house was this little old shack. And from the back of that shack was a little scraggly tree that would grow up every year. And they told me that it was an orange tree. Well, naturally, I wanted an orange tree, since they had one. So I talked to my dad, and I don't even know how he did this, because we didn't have internet, we didn't have catalogs. I don't know how he did it, but he found a nursery in Florida and ordered about 8 citrus trees and had them shipped to us, and we planted them all around the farm. And I would love to tell you that they're 40-foot trees now, and we're picking oranges. But every one of them got killed the first winter. So I gave up on citrus. I said, it's just not meant to be. We've always had the bitter lemon around the farm there. And still to this day we have bitter lemon tree on the farm for rootstock purposes. But anyway, back in the 80s, my wife had a doctor's appointment in Charleston. And it was downtown Charleston. And while she was seeing the doctor, I got walking out in the streets and looking at houses and saw a huge grapefruit tree in the yard that was loaded with beautiful yellow grapefruit. And it just like set me on fire again. So I came home and started doing research the gumshoe way with the World Book Encyclopedia, which is now extinct, by the way, another casualty of the internet, and found out that satsumas would grow in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. So my wife has a sister in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and I contacted her and asked her to bring me a satsuma tree for Thanksgiving when she came home to visit parents. I planted it at the back door. I built a little square frame, put a light bulb like a pump house, and in 2 years, we were eating oranges. I tell people citrus is not like pecans. You don't wait 20 years. You know, people my age, you don't want to wait 20 months, much less 20 years. But anyhow, everybody that saw my tree said, man, I'd love to have one of those. Where did you get it? And after hearing that about 100 times, I decided that I would learn how to graft. Started growing my own rootstocks there at the farm from the bitter lemon that we had. And so here I am today, a certified Citruholic, okay? And it's been a good run. Danny, would you like, this man is truly a Citruholic. Just stand up and tell him how many trees you got in your yard, Danny.
I honestly don't know. I've lost count. We put in everything that we like to eat. That's all we do. And thanks to you and Ben and Herschel, I have a pile of them.
Yeah. Well, I was very impressed with your yard. It was beautiful. All right, so we're fixing to announce the winners of our fruit contest. And if any of you would like one more chance at a lottery, I want to call them lottery tickets, a raffle ticket. My granddaughter's back there waiting to take your money, and we're going to give away all these prizes here. So last chance for that. And take a little short break while I get the trophies and announce the